if I really want to get back to myself and get back to that part of me, or that expression that I am, then I need to come back to my breath. So that's a really simple way to do it. So when we talk about using herbs to do that, the herbs, they're digested like food. And when I'm actually digesting food, it becomes part of my physical body, but it also becomes part of my experience, right? Because there's a biochemistry there that is affecting the function of my mind and all that, right? So, but we all have there's a lot of energy around us that is quite atheistic. Even the religions, the organized religions, and that they're so they're tending to be very one-dimensional, and we're multidimensional. So those are the things I think that really affect our thinking. That we say, oh, over a couple of years ago, I had spent some time in Portugal and then in Mexico, and I'd been in Australia prior to that, New Zealand prior to that. And one of the really big differences that I noticed was that the sidewalks I was in Madeira, which is an island, actually, that's part of Portugal. And Mexico was that the sidewalks were all curvy. They were all wiggly. And the sidewalks in, in Australia are pretty straight, as well as the United States and many other countries of that nature. So I thought that was really representative of some of that old connection still back to the essence of life, and how we're not just these mechanical beings.
I mean, yeah, you talked about the connection to nature, and I remember that was one of my first things that I was focusing on. A friend who was a permaculturist, and that was the first thing she ever said to me when I started going and visiting her permaculture farm, was like, notice how I don't just have a straight line straight through the orchard. And she's like, when you go back to Sydney, look at how you walk, and it blew me away. Of course, we're gonna our neural network is going to take with whatever's around us, and then it comes down to, well, what are those curved lines then? What is that about? What would be, and from your perspective, whether it's in our practice or the environments we put ourselves in, what happens when we start not just going linear?
When we don't go linear, I think our whole view of life expands. We start to see ourselves, that the essence of who we are, in a much, much bigger way. Yeah. So our thinking, is going to be so limited. and so when and that's where I think making mistakes, and that I mentioned earlier, it's just such a great thing, as long as I'm willing to let go of some of that ego enough to be able to see, okay, what is it that I can learn from this? And that's what makes those wiggles. It's not the only thing, but it's really a big part of it. And that's what has us really, if I realize, and I really realize it inside, and I'm touching my chest and my heart, if I let myself realize that, and can just a little bit, even inch beyond that ego of trying to achieve and look good and all those things, that then that's when things expand, and none of that's a straight line. Yeah, it's okay. And that's really what makes it, actually, it makes it interesting.